Hello, everybody. Welcome to the DUC Datathon. I'm David Shackleton. I work with Independent Data Services. I'm one of the volunteers organizing this event. This event is a result of a collaboration between an amazing group of volunteers from the SPE, the Society of Petroleum Engineers, Calgary Data Science SIG Special Interest Group, and the Untapped Energy Datathon non-profit organization. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that we may be on the ancestral lands of the First Nations people. Calgary and where I am in the town of Banff are communities within Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta, traditional territories of the Sarcee, Blackfoot, and Stoney Nakoda tribes. We got a poll set up there. Hopefully you saw it flash up on your screen so we can see where you're all from. We'll have the results of that in a moment. Most of us are from Calgary. Some folks from Edmonton, elsewhere in Canada, US, and other parts of the world. So welcome to everybody. In a moment, I'll pass you over to Volo from SPE Calgary to say hello and welcome, and then to Tim Chan of Untapped Energy. After that, we'll have a look at the event and the timeline of the event of the summer here. We'll look at the tools that we'll use to communicate, the boot camps that we've got planned, the data science learning platform we have access to. We'll find out what a DUC is from an industry expert, Barrett Henschel of Baytex Energy. We'll meet the data from Steve Johnson. The data has been kindly donated by JWN. We'll look at the rules of the game going forward. A word from our sponsors, Tech Recruiters ITIQ. We'll talk about prizes for the competition. And finally, if you make it to the end, there's a chance to get a door prize at the end. So hopefully you'll stick around for that. We're going to cover a lot of ground in the next hour. If you do have questions, please type them into the Q&A box you should see at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to chat in the chat box apart from that. And that's all from me. So I'm going to hand you over now to Volo. He's a volunteer with the SPE Calgary Data Science SIG and a data scientist from Chevron. He actually won the last competition that was organized by Untapped Energy, so you probably want to listen to this guy. Over to you, Volo. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Good evening. So my name is Volo, and I'm a chair of Data Science and Engineering Analytics Special Interest Group. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I want to welcome everyone to what we hope to be the data event of the summer. We partnered here at SPE Calgary. We partnered with Untapped Energy, which is a grassroots group from Calgary with experience organizing datathons, to bring you access to a great industry data set from Western Canada, a series of data science boot camps, which will be taught by practicing energy data scientists and engineers, and 2 datathon competitions. With this event, we aim to help you develop your data science skills, meet a community of fellow energy data enthusiasts, and give you a chance to practice or showcase your skills during the competition. Now, at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Tim Chan from Untapped Energy, who will talk a little bit more about Untapped Energy and its community.
Well, thank you so much, Volo, and good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Chan, and it is an absolute pleasure to be able to partner with SPE to be able to work on this particular data event. Untapped Energy is a community of data practitioners from all across the energy industry, and we seek to solve problems for the industry by using data science and analytics. And we do this by meeting on a monthly basis. So we do have monthly meetups, and also by helping to organize data events like this Datathon. And one of the benefits of the Untapped Energy group is being able to hear about stories, about successful stories from its community members. So this is a little bit of a plug for myself to say that if you have an interesting data story, well, we'd love to hear from you. And so I'd like to reinforce Volo's message and give you a warm welcome to tonight's kickoff. So you're probably here today because you'd like to know, well, what is this Datathon event? Well, that's great, because we're going to spend a few moments going through some of the details that you need to know about this. First and foremost, we're so delighted that you're here to participate in this event. And as Volo has mentioned, there are many different objectives that we hope to accomplish with this event. Learning a new data skill might be something that you're interested in, depending on where you are in your professional career. Perhaps it is something that you have been doing for many years. Perhaps it's something that you're just dabbling into. This event gives you the opportunity to explore many different facets of what data is and how data can be used to make informed decisions. On top of that, you'll be able to meet new people. Of course, we do find ourselves in very strange times with a global pandemic, but with the technology that's available to us, we have an opportunity to remain connected. And in fact, we have the opportunity through an event like this to meet new people. And then finally, we have the opportunity to solve a real energy problem. We know that with data, we're able to look further for information that can help us to understand what the problem is, but then to use specific tools and techniques to come up with insights, with innovations, and with creative approaches to solving a problem. And so that is how, and the reason why we've put together this particular event. This event is unique in that it's going to occur over the next couple of months. Some people might have thought, well, that would have been a crazy thing to do, particularly given that July and August are very popular vacation months. But again, we find ourselves now in strange times with a global pandemic. Perhaps some of your vacation plans have had to be altered. Perhaps you do find yourself now having some more time to engage in this. Well, that's great, because between July and August is when this event will happen. For the month of July, we have a number of learning events that will help to get you ready and in shape to be able to participate in the data competition. The data competition will occur in August. So for the month of July, we have a number of boot camps that have been arranged, and you'll have a chance to hear about these in a moment. And then the competition will take place between August 2nd and August 22nd. And so for that, I'd like to invite Louisa to come and speak a little bit more about the boot camps.
Thank you, Tim. So in July, we will have a series of boot camps for you to strengthen your data science skills. These events are not mandatory, and the sessions will be recorded and uploaded in our YouTube channel for further reference. During these events, the instructors will be using a subset of the data set so participants can get experience with the data before the competition starts. The bootcamps offer an opportunity for hands-on experience using tools such as Python and R and Spotfire for data visualization. In the next slide, you can see the name and affiliation of our instructors. During the second week of July, we will have an introduction to Python and R. The invitation for these events will be sent out after the kickoff event, and we will be announcing more bootcamps through the month of July. Now I'm gonna hand you over to Tim, so he will tell you more about additional learning tools.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Louisa. And because learning is such an important part of this particular event, we're so pleased to announce an important feature of this Datathon. We have now partnered with DataCamp, which is an online learning tool. DataCamp provides self-paced online data science education service, including skills-based training, pioneering technical innovation, and interactive learning with courses from the best data science educators. DataCamp's growing library of content teaches users to code in R, Python, SQL, and Git, just to name a few. If Tableau, Power BI is your thing for visualizations, well, they've got courses for that. Maybe you like using spreadsheets and you just want to hone those skills. Well, they also have courses for that. And they also offer the opportunity to practice and to apply these skills across challenges and projects. The DataCamp learning environment offers a unique combination of videos, interactive coding, hands-on projects, and assignments, including topics that touch on programming, importing and cleaning data, data manipulation, data visualization, and a number of other learning opportunities. So we're so delighted that DataCamp has partnered with this event. What they are doing is they're providing all registered participants with a premium account for 60 days, completely free of charge. So during this Datathon event, you can continue to work on developing those data skills by utilizing this particular account. This account includes access to all of their content on the DataCamp platform, including all course content, assessments, projects, and their practice exercises as well. Now, when we get to August, that is when we begin the competition. Competition gives all participants the opportunity to apply their data skills. So we start with an opening ceremony that will occur on Sunday, August the 2nd at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The competition then runs between August 2nd and August 22nd. And then finally, the competition concludes with a closing ceremony on Sunday, August the 23rd. That will also start at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. At this closing ceremony, there will be a panel of esteemed judges that will take a look at all of the submissions from the participants in this competition and apply an evaluation criteria that looks at both quantitative and also qualitative components. Submissions for the competition will be done online, and as David had mentioned earlier, there will be prizes. So we are grateful to our partners ITIQ for providing the prizes. So maybe enough with the housekeeping items. At this point, some of you may be asking, well, what is a DUC? Well, we're delighted to have Barrett Henschel to be with us today to give us some details about what this is.
So thank you for the introduction, Tim, and thank you for having me. As Tim mentioned, my name is Barrett Henschel, Exploitation Manager, Light Oil at Baytex. Including my time at Raging River, I've been with Baytex for 7 years and have worked completion, production, exploitation roles. My light oil experience is with Viking and East Duvernay with Baytex, as well as Cardium at a previous company. So just to clarify, we will be talking about the types of DUCs shown here on the left, not about the 48 million DUCs there are in the world on the right. So the picture here on the left is actually one of our Viking DUCs that we currently have sitting in the Kinnishley area. This is a picture of the casing bowl waiting for a wellhead to be installed. So tonight we'll walk you through what is a DUC and why do producers utilize DUCs. We'll also touch on the potential issues with DUCs as well as the impacts that they have on supply and demand of oil and gas in the world markets. So what is a DUC? A DUC is a drilled, uncompleted well. By this we mean a well in which the entire drilling process has been completed when no completion activity has begun. Looking at the diagram, this would mean that the rig has ran its production casing string and successfully cemented it in place, securing the well. The wellbore is completely isolated from the reservoir and from surface. So you may ask, why drill a well and not complete it? What benefit does this have since there is sunk capital and no return on the investment? Well, the main reason is DUCs provide a great deal of flexibility. So quickly before moving on to the next slide, here's another picture of one of our DUCs in the Duvernay. The completion of this well was put on the shelf with the commodity price collapse here. Notice the difference in the size compared to the earlier picture in the Viking DUC. The Duvernay one here as well also has a wellhead and a fully functioning master valve installed. I am personally very excited for pricing to recover so we can complete this well and see the results. Ducking wells, such as the Duvernay or the Viking wells shown in previous slides, allow producers the flexibility to respond to current commodity environment that they are dealing with at the time. If the oil prices were to climb and strong forward strip prices shown, producers may want to start completing DUCs on top of their current capital development plans to grow production and increase cash flow. On the flip side, if there is a pricing collapse, ducking wells allows producers to retain cash in their pocket until pricing recovers. By having the flexibility to proceed or defer completions of wells, producers can sculpt their production profiles throughout the year. For example, looking at the Viking production plot attached with the black and orange lines on the bottom right, the black line would be the production profile that would be expected without the use of DUCs, where it takes till midsummer to catch up to the decline through breakup and begin to grow production. In contrast, the orange line shows the power and flexibility that DUCs provide, where we can climb out of the decline quicker to build production rates back up, allowing for further flexibility, to adjust in Q4 as required. This is due to the fact that coming out of breakup, we can typically move the frac crews around sooner than drilling rigs due to road bans, start adding production rather than waiting for the drilling rig to be finished before adding wells on production. DUCs also allowed for operational efficiencies, such as the ability to low level and continue the momentum of a warm crew. For example, if you had a hockey team that's on a winning streak, you wouldn't want to give them a long break. The same goes with a safe and efficient drilling crew. You want to maximize the work that can be completed in ideal conditions for the task. Typically, winter works well with the frozen ground conditions for drilling, while summer months can be optimal for completion activities, especially in places like the Duvernay, where a large volume of water is required to be transferred so heating is not required. DUCs allow the resource plays to essentially build an assembly line such as that in the auto industry, where there's ebbs and flows of pieces along the way to continue the process to deliver the product in the most efficient and cost-effective way possible. There's also potential issues that arise with DUCs. Leaving a well standing for a period of time can result in casing integrity issues if the well was not left properly inhibited. In addition, there's potential for reservoir issues to arise, such as swelling clays, from the reaction with residual drilling fluid. This can result in frac propagation issues, leading to reduced well productivity due to understimulation. There's also the risk of stranded capital if wells are ducked into collapsed pricing environment, which I'm sure there's a bunch of us feeling the effects of right now. Who wishes they didn't drill the last few wells now? With the flexibility that DUCs provide, they have the potential to have a big impact on the supply and demand of oil and gas on the world markets. Depending on the commodity price, the question becomes how fast and how productive can DUCs be completed? What impact will the influx of production have on suppressing the pricing recovery we're all hoping for? Are the DUC counts being published accurate? If they are to be completed as efficiently as claimed, they have the ability to replace storage and supply and potentially suppress the pricing recovery. As you can see in the chart below, showing the monthly count of DUCs in the United States since 2014, there was a decline of DUCs in 2016 when the pricing collapsed, followed by an increase in DUCs through 2017 when the Permian took over, climbing to the now count of around 8,500 wells, with massive capital influx. Now again, the collapse in oil prices, we will likely see a drastic reduction in the DUC count as producers turn to completing the DUCs rather than drilling wells to add production when the timing is right. How this is managed go forward, and what is the right number of DUC wells to have to continue the balance. So in closing on what is a DUC is a drilled, uncompleted well. DUCs provide a great deal of flexibility to producers to manage production and capital, and DUCs have the potential to greatly affect the supply and demand cycle in the world market. But thank you, and if there's any questions, I'm not sure if you guys want to wait till later or can answer now.
Thank you for that, Barrett. That was quite helpful. As people prepare themselves for a data competition, having as much of the domain information will help understand the problem more clearly. To continue with building deeper into the domain, next we have a video that was put together by Steve Johnson that looks further into DUCs.
Hello everyone, my name is Steven, and in this video I'm going to be providing you with an introduction to DUC wells and the datasets you can use in this competition to identify them. So in order to get started, the first thing we obviously need to do is gain an understanding of what a DUC is. A DUC is a well that has been drilled but not yet completed. This essentially means that it is a well that is ready to begin production but has not yet been activated. The result is a storage-like situation where operators enter into a position where they can strategically choose when they want to bring on new volumes of production into the market. Information about DUC wells therefore provides us with essential insights into near-term future production in a given region. Now these insights will manifest in a number of different ways, but they can be applied throughout various aspects of the industry. As an operator, for example, you can use DUC information to understand near-term supply elasticity and time flow volume scheduling around variances in elasticity to capture favorable regionalized price dynamics. As a service company, we can identify a buildup of uncompleted well inventory and position ourselves to target that region's operators with completions relevant services. Finally, as investors and stakeholders, we can use this information to gain insights into operator sentiments around the favorability of short-term pricing trends. With all this in mind, then, I'd like to loop back to the initial definition of a DUC by drawing our attention to the well diagram on the right side of this page. In essence, we are identifying DUCs by determining the completion of a well's drilling cycle combined with the absence of a final perforation or fracking event required to bring it on stream. So now that we have our definition, we can look into what kind of data sources are available to identify DUC profiles. But here's the rub, and the real reason for this event. There are no direct sources of DUC status identifiers for wells in Canada. In fact, most premium data vendors won't even have fields available to identify Canadian DUCs. This means that we're on our own to come up with a methodology for leveraging regulatory data to identify wells that are likely to be DUCs. Unfortunately, DUC identification then becomes further complicated by the nuances of Canadian well completions. There are many different ways to complete a well, and therefore we cannot use the same prescriptive identifiers to create a universal DUC identification criteria. For example, a Montney-type well with a complex sleeve casing mechanism will most likely require a hydraulic fracturing event to reach production. However, an open hole well might simply be waiting for a perforation event to get started. From there, how do we know which of the many events associated with bringing the well online is the final one to mark its transition from DUC to an active producer? The end result here is a situation where we have a data point of critical importance being hidden away from industry due to the difficulties associated with retrieving it. DUC data goes underreported because of the difficulties associated with its methodology. This results in it being under-researched and therefore underrepresented in the strategic planning cycles we see throughout the value spectrum. Now, not to repeat myself here, but I've again highlighted at the bottom of this slide various data-driven workflows that can be pursued using DUC information to drive value from multiple business segments participating in this industry. Operators, servicers, bankers, investors, and regulators can all benefit from using DUC-related insights. Now that we've gotten through the academic portion of the presentation, let's discuss the actual data you're going to be working with. As I'm sure you already know, the competition has sourced premium well information from JWN Energy, which means you don't need to worry about all of the normalization and cleanup that goes into working with regulatory data. JWN has then provided us with a subset of information pertaining to some key formation regions so as to keep things clean. Fair warning though, there is still enough data in the sample set to crash your computer if you aren't taking proper precautions during your ETL. The data provided is organized into 3 time series record sets that can be joined back to a main header table using the EP Assets ID column as a primary key. Now, EP Assets ID is used as a primary key in this situation because you can't always rely on UWI or license number to act as a primary well identifier in Canada. That being said, it is still the convention to report findings on well research on a UWI or license number basis. So for your analytical purposes, you're going to be using EP Asset ID, but in reporting your results, you're probably going to want to use UWI. The well header table will be the most important table you'll be working with in this competition. It serves as your home base as it holds a full record of all of the wells you'll be working with in the competition. Each row of the data in this table represents an individual well leg, with columns representing profile characteristics. You'll find information here about basic drilling timelines, associated business stakeholders, 3D geospatial attributes, and more. In working with this data set, make sure that you take the time to explore the categoricals to their fullest and to think through their relationships with each other. This is, at its heart, an exercise in feature engineering. If by the end of this competition you have not reformatted this data table into something entirely new, you'll have missed the point. A quick couple of notes here on some misleading column headers that we found that we want to make sure you fully understand and don't accidentally make mistakes with. There's a field in here titled completion date, which would initially appear to be a data leak identifying the date and time when a well has been completed. However, this field doesn't actually represent the completion date as you'd normally think of it, in that it doesn't represent the date when a well was fracked. It actually represents the date when a well was finished drilling, and is more of a poor substitute for the rig release date included elsewhere in the table. I would actually recommend ignoring this column. There are 2 other columns then at the end of the table called completed and perf flags. These aren't actually meaningful columns. They were used to generate the table and to ensure that the final joins went through properly. So again, probably best to ignore them. Finally, there's a column in here at the end called match that again is just a garbage column. It was used to verify the integrity of the initial data set, but won't be something that will be meaningful for you. The well production table provides you with time series volumetric information about the wells found in well header. In here, you'll be able to identify how much of various fluid types a well has produced on an average daily basis over the course of a month. You'll also be able to find the number of production hours that a well has been online for over the course of that month. When working with this data set, be sure to take a moment to understand the fluid categories that are available. Don't double count BOE values, and be sure to normalize volumes for production hours. Finally, be aware that a DUC well is allowed to have some production history, as operators will sometimes flow test a well before it is actually completed. The perfs treatment table is going to be the most important record set to understand in identifying DUCs. It provides a time series schedule of activity events performed on each well and well header. These events range from fracking and perforation events to less meaningful service type events. To be effective in this competition, you'll need to be able to apply time series techniques to relate this information back to the well header table. Just something to pop in with on that. In the presentation, it was mentioned that there's 3 record set tables for you to work with. We actually dropped one of them out just to make the competition a little bit more straightforward. So you'll notice there was a table in there called completions. That one has been removed, and all it was showing was just depth intervals for completion intervals, which didn't really apply. So when you're looking at this presentation again in the future and going through the data set and saying, hey, where's the extra table? It's gone.
Yes, thank you, Steve. So we'll make this video recording available to all the participants. So once we release the data for a subset of data that you'll be using for your boot camps and for kind of studying the data set, you'll be able to refer back to this video to get more insight and understand better what's in your data set. So now let's talk a little bit about the rules for the competition. So the first extremely important rule is to make sure that if you're participating or starting looking at the data, we need you to sign the NDA. JWN was provided us with the data, and it's one of the requirements to participate in the competition. We'll also be asking you not to share the data with anybody who didn't sign the NDA, and please don't post this data publicly anywhere. Now to the boot camps. So the idea behind the boot camps was to actually prepare you for the competition and give you skills and maybe even give you snippets of code and dashboards that you'll be able to use as the competition begins. So it's in your best interest to either real-time participate in boot camps or listen to them after they were recorded, after they happened. So for this particular case, for boot camps for all our instructors, we released approximately 10% of the data that you'll be working with and learning how to deal with this data. Another area is once the competition begins, we will allow to use supplement the data with other data sets. However, there's a few rules. The first one, the data needs to be public and free. So everyone should be able to access the data and use it in their during the competition as well. And the third thing, because as you'll be working through the boot camps, you will already have access to the subset of the data. You'll know exactly what's in there, what's not in there. You will know what kind of data set you might want to supplement your data with. And we will ask you to please let us know before the actual competition begins on August 2nd, what data are you planning to use to supplement the data set, and where did you get it? So we'll be able to share the source of the data with other participants. So that would be the rules. And now let me introduce Jason Hamilton, from our sponsor from ITIQ, to talk a bit more about state of the employment market right now and why participating in events like this Datathon can be actually beneficial to your career.
So I'm Jason from ITIQ. I'm the account manager that manages the office here in Calgary. We are very excited to be a part of this event and being able to sponsor and share some prizes with you all for the end of it. Over this presentation, I'm just going to go over quickly who we are, some of the trends we've seen in the market, and then what the benefit of actually being part of this Datathon will bring you to your career. Awesome. So that was just a little presentation and a video on our organization. As it stated in there, we were doing our national expansion, which we did in 2019. So in that expansion, we opened an office in Calgary and Toronto. So if you're ever looking to leave Calgary and looking for opportunities elsewhere, we could also help you with that. So next, we got some market trends here. So in Calgary, there's been some high demand for IT professionals across the board. We've seen an increase even with COVID-19 happening. There's been a lot of asks for developers, all types of skill sets in terms of full stack, front end, Python, Ruby on Rails, anyone with R language as well. Data scientists, researchers, and analysts have been increasing. During COVID-19, we saw a big push on everyone really analyzing their data and understanding and making business decisions, as well as some SAP consultants, so that's kind of been there. Types of projects being completed, again, nothing's changed since Cal had shared this with most of you at the last event. Lots of digital transformations, BI, big data pushes, application modernization initiatives, ERP implementation, cloud migrations, and then application and solution scaling initiatives for various clients. And then my next slide, I just kind of wanted to touch base on what the Datathon will bring to you in terms of value added. So I've got a few points there. So networking capabilities. So as you can see, there's tons of people in the industry here wanting to make this event very successful. So you'll be able to network with those individuals throughout the boot camps as well as through the competition. As well, this helps you continue your career growth. So you're going to learn skills during this event that you can then transition into your career and your next opportunity if you're looking. Team building skills. If you're working on a team for this event, it's definitely going to push that. So everywhere you go, you're going to have to work with a team. So it's going to improve those skill sets. Hands-on experience, which you can then relate into your resume. I find a lot of clients love seeing that people are always growing their skill set. So being part of this Datathon is definitely something you want to throw on there because it's going to be a conversational starter, even if you're in an interview or going through that process with a client. And then winning the competition. If you win the competition, you get to brag about it until someone takes you off that pedestal, which I think is great. So that's kind of there. And then my last slide is just my contact information for you if anyone wants to reach out. I'm always open to a conversation. If you want any tips on an interview that you're going to for prepping or on your resumes, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, email, give me a text. I'm always available. If I'm not free, I will just make the time the following day. But I look forward to meeting a lot of you throughout this Datathon competition.
In case you haven't noticed, this event is also about having fun. So we hope that throughout this entire event, there'll be lots of opportunities to not only connect with people that you may not have connected with before, but to make this a very memorable and fun experience. And so with that, we would like to just spend a few moments to recognize some of our valued partners. You've heard from ITIQ, Tech Recruiters, CanOils. They're the ones that are providing the data, also known as JWN. And of course, DataCamp, who are providing premium accounts for all those that are participating. So to all of our partners, we are so grateful for your support, and thank you for making this event the way that it can be. And so with that, we want to say a final thank you to everyone who has joined us today. That does bring us to the close of the formal part of this kickoff. We will now spend some time to go through some of the questions, and if you have questions that you'd like to ask, we will hang around for that. Just to let you know that this session is being recorded, so if you're unable to stay with us, that's okay. You can connect with the recording afterwards and hear the questions being answered. And then just one final reminder about participating with the data. Please do sign the data licensing agreement. If you haven't yet, you would have received an email with a licensing agreement as you registered for this event. And so with that, we thank you. And let's jump into a period of questions and answers.
Is this an individual competition or a team-based competition? Also, are the boot camps comprehensive or just an introductory level boot camp? Yeah,
so for the first question, the idea is to be able to build up your data skills. Participants will have the opportunity to, if they want to, participate individually, or they can team up together. There isn't really hard and fast rules about how many can be on a team. Certainly, as you better understand the problem that is involved, you may decide that there is a point where having too many on the team might hinder the workflow and the efficiency. And so certainly we do encourage different approaches to this. As you also learn more about the evaluation criteria, you'll see that there is both a quantitative component to the competition as well as a qualitative. So perhaps as you're thinking about how you would like to compete and what type of skill sets and experiences you bring to the table, that might help inform whether or not you enter as an individual competitor or as a group. And then with respect to the boot camps, Louisa, if you're still on, did you want to take an attempt at that?
Yeah, for now, the boot camps, we have introduction to Python and R, but we will also have more advanced boot camps and more boot camps directly to related to the competition, but at the end of July. So yeah, the idea of the boot camps is to prepare you for the actual competition, to get some experience before the competition starts.
All right. And since we're on the topic of teams, how are you going to organize the teams?
So we recognize that registration is still happening. In fact, we're going to leave registration open right up until the start of the competition itself in August. And so the planning team is working through, you'll notice that when you registered, we asked a few questions about your experiences in various data areas. And so one approach would be to put together teams that are balanced in the skills and experiences that are there. But we also want to leave it open too, that if you have other team members in mind that you like to enter together, that would be a possibility.
And if there is, because there are some questions about that, if there is a group of participants that are interested in participating together, would you like someone to just email kind of the Calgary section and we can take it from there? How would you like, does that work?
That would be, I think, the most efficient way. If maybe one representative from the team that would like to enter together could email the SPE section, then we can help to coordinate that. Perfect.
And then I'm just going to take these two questions quickly. We've got one that's, are we going to receive notifications for the next session? Louisa, correct me if I'm wrong, but once I receive the dates for the boot camps, I will start sending out calendar invites with the links to the Zoom logins for everyone. So that's how you'll be notified of the next sessions once we just get a couple dates lined up. I'm not sure, Louisa, if you've confirmed any of those dates, if you wanted to share them.
Yeah, so the first bootcamp will be on July 8th. That's for the introduction to R. And on July 9th, the introduction to Python. Both bootcamps will be from 5:30 to 6:30.
Perfect. So, and I will send out calendar invites tomorrow, most likely, for those. So everyone will start to receive the calendar invites for the boot camps. And then on top of that, with access to the materials presented, the Calgary section email and ktrepner@spe.org that you guys have been getting information from, I will be sending out those video links once everything's edited and uploaded. And the next question is going to be, do participants need to have a solid knowledge and experience with the tools or background in oil and gas industry? How are beginners able to catch up?
And so this event is meant to be very inclusive to encourage participation from those from different experiences. The purpose of the boot camps is to think of it as the pre-marathon training that whether you are experienced in running full marathons or maybe you're a weekend runner, boot camps are meant to try to bring you up to a certain level of understanding so that when you engage in the competition, you can contribute. Of course, we know that just a series of boot camps isn't going to graduate bona fide data scientists. Having DataCamp as a partner to this event allows you to engage in more learning. And so I would encourage that when you have that premium account to explore all the different courses that are available there. And then this is also then where having a team or building out your network of other participants may help you to identify maybe an area that you may not have as much experience or skills in. Maybe you can partner with someone who can help complement your skill set.
And just one question on how big the data is going to be.
Pretty big, but not unreasonable. Like if I just flip through here really quick, we've got, there's 10,000 well records, and then we've got time series behind that. So there's 100,000 production records and 450,000 perf treatment records. So it's actually, it is a quite manageable amount of data set. It's just in one of the previous competitions, we saw people just trying to load it all up into memory without any compression or without properly managing the data, and they join it all together and they wind up just overloading their computer. So it's not that bad, just you have to know how to basically handle your data and load it. You can't just throw it at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, and for boot camps, it's going to be 10% of the data set. So you'll get to play with a mini size of this before you jump full steam ahead.
Okay, and a couple more. We'll take this at least until 6:30, and then what we can do, because there are a lot of questions coming in, is I can email the rest of the questions that have not been answered to the panelists and get everybody the responses. But for now, another question is there value for someone who does not have any Python or data science skills to participate in this competition?
Absolutely.
Great question.
Because the success of the competition isn't just only on the quantitative technical side of the skills. There will be a qualitative. So meaning that you need to understand the data, you need to understand how to draw out some of the features from the data set, but then you need to also determine how it is that you might be able to use that data into useful information. And so this is then where maybe someone with project management skills or analytic skills might be able to contribute to the submission. I also do see a couple of questions with respect to tools and communications, and said, yes, we would also enable the participants with tools so that they can communicate with each other. We have a Slack channel that we can utilize for that, as well as different tools to help with collaboration across different documents or codes.
Perfect. And so is the data set from one geographical area, or is it across oil and gas play types?
It is across multiple play types and is tagged by field pool and formation. It also has lat long, so you'll be able to delineate that.
How do we use Spotfire as it is proprietary software?
So we continue to look for partners to help support this competition and this event. We recognize that there are different tools that are out there. The idea of the boot camps is more to demonstrate the concepts. So Spotfire being one of many visualization tools, the boot camps would more cover what makes a good visualization. And so if your preferred tool is Tableau or Power BI, or perhaps you're using Excel as your visualization tool, the idea is to learn more about those concepts as opposed to the specific tool itself. Perfect.
And it says, once we submit our code for judging, do we retain the IP, or is it then property of SPE/Untapped?
The idea of being inclusive means that, and Volo talked about this as well too, that we would absolutely encourage the augmentation of data by using other data sources. And we just ask that it be publicly available and free so that it is available to others. And so using that same open source, open data concept, which is one of the grounding principles for this particular event. We would ask that any of the ideas also be shared openly as well.
Okay, and here's another question about the data set. I think DUCs is more commonly used in unconventionals. Does the data set also include thermal SAGD?
So the wells we've picked off for this competition are going to be largely conventional plays, so not oil sands, SAGD projects. There's no saying as to whether or not they might be next to a water flood facility or something that just so happens to be supporting them, but that is highly unlikely. So we are assuming that these are all conventional wells.
And will we need cluster computation for data analysis?
You won't need it. You would benefit for it if you really wanted, but I mean, you can do all of this in Excel, so you won't need that. It's more, you could use that if you wanted to do some really hardcore AI, but I don't even think you'd get a lot of benefit out of that.
Great. And I'm not sure this one will go to. Any limitations on what compute facilities can be used?
I think that'll be similar to Steve's response. You can use whatever tool that you would like. There's another question about Amazon Web Services, perhaps your flavor of choice is Azure. I think once you have a chance to get to know the data and what the problem is, you may come to the conclusion that maybe certain tools may be advantageous. In other cases, I think the common tool set would be adequate for this competition.
Great. And Louisa, you might want to take this. Will there be any boot camps on time series analysis?
At this time, we don't have any boot camp confirmed with that topic. If we have one, we will be announcing the boot camp through the month of July.
Great. And can you guys give any examples of free or public data sets? I'm assuming
you're welcome to go to the AER website and dig through their mountains of not well organized and easy to find data.
This could be a topic for a Slack channel as well, couldn't it? Publicly available sources of data.
Yeah, it does highlight one of the features of this particular event, in that the data that you'll be receiving to use has already been cleaned up and it's ready to use. Oftentimes when you are dealing with public data sets, you're spending a lot of time just cleaning the data, wrangling it together to get it to a useful format. Here, the data is being provided to the participants in an already useful format.
I think just a quick note on that from one of our past conversations, and guys, correct me if this has changed, but the real objective here was to make sure that you can't just run off to your $100,000 GeoScout subscription and just steal the answers. So we're wanting to shy people away from those types of subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's absolutely right, Steve.
Great. And so I think we'll just take there's 2 or 3 more questions, and then any unanswered questions, I will get the participants' answers typed out from the panelists. One question was about how many people have registered for this so far. And right now we have about 98 people in the competition. So, and hopefully growing until it starts in August. And another question I'm just going to send out to you guys is, can you go over the hardware requirements again?
I think a lot of the questions that are coming in would probably benefit from like a survival guide. So we are preparing additional documentation as part of the support for the participants. So I guess what I would encourage is, let's have ongoing dialogue and stay connected with the entire event, because in addition to the boot camps and the opening ceremonies, we'll make sure that there's good communications going out to the participants, and it's meant to be a two-way dialogue as well too. So, feel free to reach out to any of the planning team members.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end it off. And when it comes to sending out all the presentations, Zoom links, and calendar invites, I will communicate that to all the participants, because there are a lot of questions coming in about that as well. So I think with that, Tim, if you want to take it over to end it off, or anybody else, I think we're good to go.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Kristen. A very special shout out and thank you to Kristen. She's working tirelessly behind the scenes to make this happen, and so we're so grateful that for your efforts. And so with that, we are also encouraged just by the engagement. Thank you for all the questions. We know that we didn't have the time to perhaps answer all of them as fulsomely as we could. Our commitment to you as a planning team is, we want to work together to make this a successful event for everyone that's involved. So with that, and on behalf of the planning team, we want to just say thank you. Have a great night and please stay safe.